Welcome. You are listening to the Be a Better Being podcast, hosted by Michelle Zellner and Sasha Berscheid. Michelle and Sasha are here to give you information and inspiration to help you live your healthiest, happiest lives. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoy the show.
Greetings and thank you for tuning in to the Be a Better Being podcast. I'm Michelle Zellner, your host. I am sort of solo today, but I am far from alone because I have the guest of all guests. I mean, talk about knowing how to talk and having experience behind the microphone. I am really delighted to be joined today by Talker Magazine's 2022 Woman of the Year, as well as the host of the Mandy Connell Show, which you can find on 850 KOA. My friend, Mandy Connell, welcome.
And 94.1 FM. Don't forget our FM there. That's very important to us right now. And on the iHeartMedia platform, just throwing that out there.
Well, see, this is what you get when you have the interviewer of all interviewers. So I am really thank you, Mandy, for joining us today on the Be a Better Being podcast. I want to give a little bit of background on how we got connected because people ask me all the time, how do you know Mandy? Well, here's how I know Mandy. I know Mandy because I stepped way out of my comfort zone about 4.5 years ago. I've been listening to your show well before that. And one day I'm sitting in my living room listening to your show. In fact, it was January 4th, 2018. And you were talking about something that I go through all the time in my business. It was nothing related to wellness. It was just the general idea that we lament that nothing is happening, change isn't happening, we're not making any progress, everything's just horrible, and why can't we just make things different or better or see change? And your point was, things are happening, change is happening, it just takes a lot of time, and we seem to think that it should happen overnight. So when I heard you talking about that, it just propelled me to reach out to you on Facebook Messenger and thank you for years and years of really speaking my mind for me out in the public and seeing that we have a lot of, similarities and overlap, even though what we talk about is very, very different. The ultimate bottom line is the process is often very the same. So I reached out to you. You immediately responded. It's like, oh, Mandy Connell responded to me. Oh my gosh, what do I do? I was totally fangirling. And it just went from there. And so fast forward now 4.5 years, you have been very gracious and generous to have me on your show dozens and dozens of times. And that's why I thought it would be really great to wrap up National Wellness Month, which is August, with the person who's invited me to come on and talk about wellness with her audience. And so again, thank you, Mandy, for being here. Welcome to the show.
It is absolutely my pleasure. And to be clear, I don't normally become friends with everyone who sends me a Facebook message. So please don't be upset if I don't. As a matter of fact, I have an auto response on Facebook now that says I don't check my Facebook messages because they've made it like a multi-step process and it's a nightmare. But Michelle, I have to say, I've invited you on because you bring great content to my listeners. You bring great information. You bring stuff and you make people think about how they're living their lives and what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong. And I get so many emails from people that say, I heard you and Michelle talking about this one thing. And it could be something really random, but it strikes a chord with them and it inspires them to change their lives. And in all honesty, like, why do a radio show if you cannot help people live a better life? It's like this podcast. It's your whole life's work is just helping people lead a better life. So you've been instrumental in changing lives on my show, just like you've been instrumental with changing lives with Better Beings for 25 years now. So it's been a very symbiotic relationship for us. And you personally have helped me in so many ways. And you know this, I've talked about it before. I mean, I hear Michelle's voice in my head now when I'm thinking about what I'm going to get for a snack. I hear her say all the time, is this choice going to get you close to your goals or further away from your goals? But those little things have helped me in my own personal life lead a healthier life, like one tiny step at a time. And that's really what it's all about, is those tiny little steps add up. The old adage, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? So she's kind of helped me eat my health elephant one bite at a time. So I'm eternally grateful to you as well.
Well, thank you for that. In fact, that was one of the reasons I did feel comfortable reaching out to you, not knowing who you were, because you're very open about your health journey, your challenges, the things that you have worked on, the things that you've seen in your own family, and knowing what that might be for you in the future. And that's kind of, ignited your desire to make some changes. You've been very open about that on your show. And so as you talk about your health and wellness, and I've listened to you talk about that for a few years, and then when I reached out, and that really was how it got started, was you asked me, well, what is your business? Because I didn't go into it in that first message. I just said, it's very similar to what I deal with in my business. And then you asked me, what's your business? And I said, it's health and wellness. And that is really when that symbiotic relationship went forward. And if anybody has read my book, and if you haven't, I'm not sure why, but you should read the back, because Mandy Connell gave me a testimonial on the back, which was also really a big deal for me. So
it was a big deal for me too. I'd never been asked to blurb a book before, and I got all excited, and it took me like 3 weeks to come up with 3 lines. It was really hard, but you're like, this is going to be on the back of someone's book. It's got to be good, and it's got to represent what's in the book. And I think I was pretty happy with what came out. So, and the book is outstanding. So it was an easy thing to say nice things about. It wasn't difficult.
Well, thank you. Maybe since we are talking about National Wellness Month, let's dive into your own wellness journey. What was that like? You're a little older than me, not very much older than me, but we kind of grew up in the same era, and I know, had some of the same challenges and different mindsets and things that we were taught.
Do you want me to go? Like, because I feel like this fitness journey that I'm on, and to be clear, I'm not about to go start a fitness girl like Instagram page. Okay, nobody's counting my abs right now, but as a child, my mom was a working mom. My parents split up, and nutrition and wellness was never a consideration for us because my mom was working until late in the evening. We literally ate like pizza or KFC or whatever my mom could pick up on the way home. And every great once in a while she would cook. So that was kind of how I grew up. So I grew up with these horrible nutritional habits, but I was very, very thin when I was young. I mean, I was very, very thin. I'm not a great athlete. I like to do some sports, but I was never like, I was a cheerleader in high school, which was a very athletic thing, but I didn't really play organized sports so much. I was a gymnast when I was very young. Then I got really tall. But so I kind of did not develop any good habits. I developed a lot of bad habits, or worse, no habits, in terms of consistent diet and exercise. And throughout my early 20s, I was a flight attendant. So we had weight requirements that we had to meet. And we started referring to flight attendant training as anorexia and bulimia camp because, and this is the truth. So this was 1991. And Delta Airlines had a policy at the time that during the 6 weeks of training, you had to weigh in every Thursday. And if you weighed in 2 pounds over the maximum they had given you, you went home. There was no chance to lose the weight the next week. You went home if you were 2 pounds over your maximum. So we were running every day. We were taking laxatives all the time because they measured me about half inch shorter than I actually am. So that took an additional 5 pounds off my max. And that created a really unhealthy dynamic for me. Like right then, when I was 21 years old, that created this very unhealthy pattern for me that really continued in almost a loop for like 20 years. So I was a flight attendant for 5 years, managed my weight because I had to. You still had to weigh in once a year. You had to go in your uniform and weigh in. And managed to hold it together during that period of time. But when I quit flying and I went into radio and it was a much different lifestyle, and I was working in the overnight shift from midnight to 6, that shift, if you work overnights, I am so sorry. That's not where any human being should work, really. It's so hard on your body. It messes up your metabolism. Knowing what I know now about how sleep and sleep deficits and all of that stuff wrecks your metabolism and just your, I don't know if I would have ever taken that job because it was really, really hard. And that's when my weight started to really fluctuate. And knowing that I still have no good healthy habits, like I have none. I'm working in a restaurant to support my radio habit because I wasn't making any money. And I'm eating at the restaurant every day. And I'm eating all of what they're putting in front of me at the restaurant every day. And so over the next like 15 years, my weight was all over the place. I mean, all over the place. And every once in a while I get really serious and like, cause I've got to fit into my bikini body. I've got to be ready for summer. And I would lose a bunch of weight on some crash diet and then immediately start to regain it again. So it was just this really, really bad yo-yo pattern. When I had my daughter, I was as big as a house and I was almost 40 years old. I was 39 when I had my daughter. And when I got on the scale, right before I literally the day she was born, and I saw that number, which I will never, ever tell anyone. I just thought, this is the most I will ever weigh in my life. Like, this is it. I will never go above this number. After I had my daughter, you know, when you have kids, you start to think like, what kind of example do I want to set for my daughter? What kind of life do I want her to have, you know? And it really sort of began to change the way I looked at my overall health, and it became less about the number on the scale and more of, am I strong enough to do the things that I want to do? Do I have the stamina to play with my little toddler daughter? You know, what things can I do that I couldn't do before? Or what things do I want to do that I'm unable to do because I'm not in good physical health? And then I'd always hated exercising. And I've talked to Michelle about this a long time. I mean, we've had this conversation. I didn't just not exercise. Like, I hated the whole process of exercising. I would join a gym and I would religiously go for 6 weeks. And then I would wake up that one day and go, and that was it. And then I would pay for the gym for another like 18 months as penance, right? For not going. That was my punishment. I had to pay the bill every month because I wasn't going. But then I actually found a personal trainer when I was living in Louisville, Kentucky. And she was so instrumental in beginning the change. And I say beginning the change because this was not an instant process, but she was really real about what was going on. She's like, look, you're a 40-something-year-old woman. It's not going to get better by itself. Like, nothing is going to magically get better. Your cardiovascular health is not going to magically change. You're not going to magically get stronger. You're not going to magically be able to do these things you want to do. And she really kind of started to change my perception about exercise. And then when I moved out here 9 years ago, I started working out with a personal trainer probably about 3 years ago. And I went to a gym. And I got to tell you, I highly recommend this. So I am at this point, I'm 40, let me see, so 5 years ago, I'm like 48, you know, and I went to the Parker Rec Center and I said, do you have a personal trainer who's over 50, female, and will listen to me when I tell her something hurts? And they said, oh, you need Dana. And that's how I got my personal trainer. I was very specific about my needs because I'd been through a bunch of personal trainers. I'd have the big buff guy who was like, work through it. That guy, which I still want to punch him in the face. So I found the right trainer for me. Like, I found a woman who works really well with me and is really creative with the workouts and makes them really fun and engaging. But when I say I can't do that because my knee hurts, she listens to me. And that really pushed the evolution of my fitness journey forward dramatically, because all of a sudden I wasn't leaving the gym in pain, which I had for a very long time. I would leave the gym. I have some structural issues that I now know via x-ray are significant with my shoulders that other trainers were like, push through it. And this trainer's like, you need to go see a doctor. Like, if you're having these problems, that's not normal. So that difference for me. And then I started to get really strong. I wasn't skinny. You know, I don't have a six pack. I don't have the bikini body that I dream of, but I started to get really strong and I started to get fit, and I could go on long hikes and I could walk up, you know, the side of a hill or a mountain without being ready to pass out. And I started to really not just recognize that, but I started to honor that. Like, wow, look what I can do, and be impressed with my body's ability to do things that I couldn't do before. And all of that stuff just made me want to go, okay, I'm going to keep doing this. Now, to be clear, it's been like this. You know what I mean? It's still not perfect. I'm not perfect every day, but I also am at a point now where I can give myself a lot more grace for those days that things do not, like, I just came off vacation, Michelle. I gained 10 pounds in 10 days. 10 pounds.
Well, maybe we should talk about that. But
Yeah.
because you actually didn't gain 10 pounds,
Well,
I
I mean,
promise
I'm
you.
already down 7 since Sunday, so it's water
Right,
and all that stuff. But you get
right,
back to the scale and you're like, what just happened right now? I mean,
right.
but so it's not a perfect journey, and I'm not where I'd like to be. I'd like to lose a little more fat on my body. That's for sure. But it doesn't keep me up at night because I continue to make those choices every day. I continue to try and be consistent with my exercise. I continue to do the things that make me feel strong and healthy. And in doing that, I'm working really hard to kind of move the needle, but move it slowly, if that
Well,
makes sense.
and that is the be a better being approach, right? It is the slow, gradual process, which nobody likes.
Yeah.
Similar to what you were talking about when I first reached out to you, nobody likes the slow process. And yet, that's almost always the way it is in real life. There are very few things where there's an instant result with little to no effort. Very few. But somehow we feel like our own health process and journeys and outcomes should work that way. And we get frustrated when it's not working,
Right.
except that it is. You just need to keep doing it.
Right.
And I think, maybe let's go back to the whole Delta Airlines having to weigh in. I'm going to make an assumption that it was more about how you look and not necessarily for a safety reason and the ability to do your job. Is that correct?
Well, at the time, the official reason is that you had to be able to perform the functions of an emergency evacuation. And in some of the aircraft at the time, there were very small openings that could be the opening of last resort, right? And honestly, in a real evacuation, like you would never use this tiny square on the floor, but that's what they used to sort of say, look, you gotta be skinny to get through that little hole on the floor. But it was all about how you looked. I mean, it was just a different time in the industry. And since then, an American Airlines flight attendant sued because all the airlines had the same policies. There was a across the board policies. And about that time, maybe 2 years, so 93, 94, an American Airlines flight attendant sued for discrimination and won. So that went out the window, but they still had standards based on that tiny square on the floor, and you had to be able to get through the tiny square on the floor, that kind of thing. So it was a little dodgy for a while. So, but yeah, it was definitely about how you looked for sure, 100% at the time. No matter what they said, that's what it was.
Yeah. And my guess is they were using the BMI chart, which I've
That
talked
wasn't
about
even a
on
thing
your
yet.
show.
That wasn't even a
Oh,
thing yet. No, I mean, it was just, they did, I was, at the time I was 5'10". Now I'm like 5'9 3/4". They measured me at 5'9 1/2" and said, you can weigh, it's 100 pounds at 5 feet and you get 5 pounds for every inch over that. So they measured me at like 147. And that was not a weight that I was ever comfortable at. I've always been comfortable. Like 155 is a very comfortable weight for me. Haven't seen 155 in several decades now, but I'm not worried about it. But at the time, that was my comfortable weight. So I immediately had to take off like 7 pounds before I got to training because they measure you in your interview. So I'm on the Stairmaster. I'm drinking Slim Fast drinks. I mean, I'm doing everything that I could. I'm taking diuretics. So I'm peeling off. I mean, it was literally the most unhealthy thing you could possibly do. I did it all in about 2 months. I did everything to get down to the weight that I needed to be. And it was just, it was what it was. I don't regret it because I loved the job. Then the job gave me so much life experience, but it's just kind of stupid and unhealthy in the long run. I mean, it's just dumb.
well, and unfortunately, a lot of people are still in that mindset, whether it's for a job or I look at wrestlers who have to make weight or the BMI chart, that still the medical community is telling us we should be a certain BMI, or it's, oh, I want to look good for the cruise or the reunion. None of it is permanent, and we get there in all very unhealthy ways.
Yeah.
And when I think about the ability of a flight attendant to do their job, I want somebody who is nourished, who is strong, who can open that door, because I'm sure that's not easy. And a malnourished person who just took diuretics to make weight, they don't have the strength to really help me in an emergency. So I think we have come a long way in our mindset shift about those
Yeah.
things, but we still have a long way to go, because I talk to people all the time who are on these 1,200 calorie diets that their doctor has told them, oh, this is how you can lose weight. Well, of course it is. That's called starvation.
Well,
And
Michelle,
then you're going to gain it all back.
can I have a moment about doctors and weight loss? Can I just have a
Please.
moment? Because I've talked to, I don't even know how many doctors about weight loss. And this is, you get one of two things. You get the doctor who says, oh, I can prescribe this appetite suppressant that I will never go to sleep again if I take them, but and you'll be fine. Just eat 1,000 calories a day and just do that. And then you're like, how is that sustainable? And they don't have an answer, or they just go, just exercise more and just watch what you eat, which is garbage. Because if I knew how to do those things properly, I would not be asking you how to lose weight. Right. I mean, the medical community is so behind the 8 ball on all of this. And it's frustrating to me because people are now going to their doctors and saying, what do I need to do? I have a girlfriend who just did this. She went to her doctor and said, look, I need to use, and you know what he said? Walk a couple miles a day. It'll come right off. That's not right. It doesn't work like that. That's bad advice. And people who are really trying these things. They're walking a couple miles a day. They're still eating all the crap. And then they're mad when it doesn't come off because it's bad advice. And doctors are so not getting it done. Not all doctors. I've had great conversations with some, to be clear. I don't want to throw every doctor under the bus, but it's really hard when you're reaching out because for either health reasons, maybe your blood pressure's high, maybe your sugar numbers are too high, and you're asking your doctor and they're giving you garbage advice. It's just really, I think that's a big reason that we have an obesity epidemic right now, is that doctors have no idea what to tell people.
Well, I absolutely agree with you on that. I have talked to hundreds and hundreds of people who go through my U Revolution class, and one episode of the class is let's talk straight about weight. And I tell it like it is. I give you all the ins and outs, and it is still astonishing to me how many people are on a program like Noom or Weight Watchers. And I'm not going to disparage any of those. However, most of them are crash diets. They're starvation diets. They just are. And if you are consuming fewer than what your body needs to simply exist, that is called starvation. And most people have no idea what that actual number is because we don't get taught what that is. We don't know, we don't learn how to figure out what that is. So if you are somebody who is struggling with this and you're going to your doctor for advice, there's a good chance that they don't know, because this is also not their specialty, right? We have a disease care system. It's not a healthcare system. I've said this over and over on your show, probably on my show as well. Our medical system is set up to react to problems instead of to maybe prevent a problem in the first place, or to approach it from a holistic point of view so that we're addressing all the things that could be impacting somebody's weight, their blood pressure, their blood sugar, their cholesterol, their energy levels, because it's all connected. And just to say, oh, just eat better and exercise more, it's such a dumb answer. I can't even believe like intelligent humans are still saying it.
I just think that, especially if you're not a person who's ever had a weight battle, right? If you have a naturally trim doctor, and there are people who are naturally trim, or your doctor grew up and has great habits and they exercise every day and they eat really healthy, I don't even think they can wrap their head around the fact that there are people out there who simply don't have those tools. They don't know what to do. I was one of those people. So I'm very sensitive to that. It's easy to say, you should just do this. But if I knew what that was, I would have already been doing it. So, and to your point about crash diets, I've done all of them, and I can lose weight like nobody's business. And I can assure you it will all come back on. And that's one of the things that has been really tough for me because, I probably like to lose at this point about 30 pounds of fat. Specifically, I want to learn to lose about 30 pounds of fat. But ultimately, I have to do it in a way that is not going to end up with me gaining 40 pounds of fat back. And that's a really hard mental switch because we're all, as you said earlier, constantly looking for that silver bullet, that magic pill, that thing that's going to take the weight off of you and you're going to be skinny for the rest of your life. I would sign up for that in a heartbeat if we had one that didn't also kill you in some way, shape, or form, But it's aggravating because our medical community is doing a real disservice. And I think COVID really exposed that, because one of the first things we knew about COVID was that if you were really fat, if you were obese or morbidly obese, you were far more likely to die. But did anybody talk about that? Nobody said, hey, if you're overweight, lose some weight and you're going to have a better chance of fighting off COVID.
In fact, some people did talk about that and they got canceled.
Right.
They got shut down. They were
Yeah.
not allowed to say that because that's fat shaming. And that's a whole other conversation that we are not allowed to have honest conversations anymore because we'll offend somebody, we'll shame. That isn't what this is about. This is about the honest truth about how a human functions, how a human body operates. And I do hope that we can just continue to have honest conversations, and hopefully people will get to that point where, they can maybe like do what you did, Mandy, and say, okay, here's the reality. I've tried it all and it didn't work for the long term. So clearly what I'm doing isn't the answer.
Right.
Let me go through the hard work of finding the answer. And it took a mindset shift, obviously, and really sounds like the catalyst was the first trainer you had that kind of made you look at things differently. And then for you to continue to readjust the mindset, because we all still get into it. And I know I do too. Like, oh my gosh, I wish there was this amazing quick result. It just doesn't exist. But when you really do start to understand yourself, and that's, to your point also, everybody's journey is different.
Mm-hmm.
You were naturally thin growing up. And I do have a lot of people like, well, I never had a weight problem growing up. And here's part of the problem. We often associate the need to eat healthy and exercise with the need to lose weight. No,
Right.
we need to eat healthy and move our bodies because we're human beings and that's what we're supposed to be doing. But we so often just tie it to our weight that you get to a point where all of a sudden, all the things I used to do and the weight doesn't come off, they don't work anymore.
Oh God,
And
when I
now,
was in my 20s, I could switch to salads at lunch for a week and lose like 8 pounds. You know what I mean? Those days are long over. I will tell, for me personally, a big mindset shift occurred when I said to myself one day, and I was probably a little bit heavier than I am now, but I'd been working out for a really long time and I was feeling really strong, and you could start to see muscles. That's a big deal. When you can start to see muscles, even if you're bigger than you want to be, when you have muscles, it changes your perception. And I was looking in the mirror and I thought, if this is what I look like for the rest of my life, like if nothing changed from this point forward, if I have this much fat on my body, this is what I look like, this should be okay. And I thought, why isn't it okay? I'm not, huge. I'm in great health. My blood pressure is awesome. My pulse rate's really good. All of these markers for my health, but I'm fixated on the way my body looks because it doesn't fit a certain standard in our skinny obsessed society. And I stood there in the mirror and it's like I had my own little come to Jesus with myself. And I thought to myself, you know what? If this is it, I'm okay with it. I'm absolutely okay with it. Am I going to stop striving? Am I going to quit? Am I going to not do the things that I'm doing? No. But if this is it, I'm okay with it. And that shift in mindset, it's like it released me from all of the negative kind of running in your head, all that, staring at the worst parts of your body. We all do this. When you go to the mirror, you don't look at your best features first. Oh no, if you have a beautiful smile, you don't even see that. You're looking for the dimple of cellulite on the back of your leg. You're looking for that one flabby part on your wings right here. We all focus on the worst parts of our body. And that moment in the mirror with myself, just saying, you know what, this is all right. I'm happy. I'm healthy. I have a great family. I have a great life. If I don't ever have washboard abs, it's okay. And it took a lot of pressure off to focus on that part of it. And then I was able to focus on how much weight can I lift? How long can I hike? What can I do? I'm obsessed with my pulse rate. Now I'm like a little too obsessed with my pulse rate, but my father had a massive stroke and died in misery over 14 months. And I am not going out like that. I'm just not. So I'm focusing on the parts of my body and the parts of my health that are directly related to, am I going to have a stroke? Now, if I put on a bunch of weight, then my blood pressure is going to go up, then my pulse rate's going to go up. And then I'm looking at, okay, now I'm moving towards stroke territory. Shifting that mindset has been very liberating. And yeah, would I like to be skinnier? Of course. But does it keep me up at night? No. And for a long time it did. I mean, that's like embarrassing to admit, but there were times when I was supposed to go to the beach with friends the next day that I didn't sleep the night before, just stressing over body image, issues. Something that when I had a daughter, I made a promise to myself that I would not pass along my body issues to my daughter. And it's really been a really positive challenge for me, but it has been very hard. We went to Greece a few years ago with Michelle. Michelle was on our trip. And I was in a bathing suit a lot of that time. And I decided before the trip, I don't care what I look like. I'm getting in this bathing suit and I'm going to have fun with my family and have fun with my kid. And I'm not ever going to let her know that I am insecure or nervous or ashamed or any of those negative emotions. And that trip changed it for me. That trip, just deciding I was not going to allow myself to feel bad about who I am because of how I look, that was a game changer for me. And that was 2019. And it's just been, since then, it's been really, really good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not walking around. I'm not wearing a thong to the grocery store, but it's a much different mindset. And it's for me, it's been very, very liberating. And that's the word I'd use. It's liberating to just say, this is okay.
Well, I love that because I always say the mindset and the mind is the hardest thing to change, but unless and until it does, very little else is going to change. And once it does, everything changes. And, I talk to women our age, younger, older. We all experience the same things that keep you up at night. Same thing. Lord knows I had a lot of those years. I talk to people who are literally missing out on their lives because they you don't feel comfortable. They, whether it's physically, they don't feel comfortable, mentally and emotionally, they don't feel comfortable with how they look. And I really do. It's part of my mission is to help people separate your body image from your health and
Right.
to focus on those different ways to measure success. Is your blood pressure healthy? Is your blood glucose healthy? Can you go on that hike and enjoy it? Are you saying no to doing things because you don't have the strength and the stamina to keep up with the group? And, those are the things that at some point you're going to look back on and realize, wow, who cares if I had an extra 5, 10, 25 pounds? If I had been strong, I could have done it. And I could have had that amazing experience that I missed out on because I was focused on my weight and how I looked. And because I didn't get a result that I wanted, I gave up trying.
Yeah. Well, and
So,
we just did my Canadian Rockies. We do these trips through my work. I feel like we should explain for people who don't listen to the
yes.
show. We do these trips through my work. They're the Mandy Connell Adventures, and they're all different, and they're amazing trips. And we just did one to Canada, and we had this delightful, absolutely delightful, gorgeous woman, probably in her mid to late 60s, I'm guessing. I'm just going to spitball. But we were talking about our next adventure, which is to Tahiti. And she goes, well, I was going to sign up for Tahiti, but I don't let anyone see me in a bathing suit. And I thought to myself, and I actually said to her, that's terrible. Why would you short yourself a great adventure over being seen in a bathing suit? And we have done that to ourselves. And I told her about my experience in Greece where I was like, I'm bringing my daughter, and there was no way I was going to stand in front of the mirror and dissect everything that's wrong with me. I can't inflict that on my own child. I watched my mom struggle. You learn so much of these things in childhood, and now you're 67 years old and you're, not going on a trip because you don't want people that honestly you're never going to see again, see you in a bathing suit. No one cares. And that's
Nobody cares.
No one cares what you look like in a bathing suit. Go live a life, have a great time. Don't let that stuff hold you back.
I absolutely firmly believe that. And, as a guest or a participant on that cruise in Greece and being the healthy girl, right? That's always the sign that I get to carry with me. Sometimes
Your posture, when Michelle is around, everybody stands up perfectly straight because her posture is amazing. Like you can't see how good her posture is in this. It's flawless. And it makes you stand up a little straighter. You're like, oh, wow, I'm a little bit taller now because Michelle's in the room. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. I mean, I'm glad. I actually just did an on-site seminar in New York with a group of 18 people. And as I talk about posture, everybody straightened up in their seats. And I just have to, I know it's going to happen. I always know it's going to happen. So I just let it happen. I watch it and then I comment on it. And it's true. Hey, if that's what I bring to people, you know what? Because you know what? The best way to look healthy and maybe thinner, if that's something that's interesting to you, have good posture.
Yeah.
And in fact, as I was walking through the airport and all around, and I'm seeing girls and women especially all slumped over. Oh, I do just want to go up to them and just pull their shoulders back and pick their head up. And it's everything I can do to not do that. But yes, good posture. But when maybe you're the healthy friend or whatever, people have this image of you. trust me, there's still, I still have that like, oh, people will think she's the fit girl. She probably looks spectacular in a bathing suit. I don't. I look okay. I, I look okay. It's fine. But I don't look spectacular, and I can say that it's an honest assessment. And yet, what am I going to do? Not go and enjoy myself because, I don't look the way a fitness, wellness, health coach should look?
Right.
Whatever. I'm almost 50 years old at this point. It's fine. And I do maybe wish that my 30-year-old self would have felt that way. So for all of my younger listeners, and I know there's a lot of you, wherever you are now, know that it will change, right? Oh, I could do whatever I want and it doesn't impact me. Maybe not right now, but whatever you're doing, as to Mandy's point, every choice you make is going to have an outcome. It's going to have an impact on the outcome, right? There's rarely one choice that's going to make everything go one way or another, but it's the cumulative effect of those choices. And the sooner you can adopt the mindset that, if I honor my body, I nourish it properly, I move it to the best of my ability, I don't let myself trigger into fight or flight over and over and over and over. I get my sleep because, yes, even the YBI, the young, beautiful, and invincible, you need sleep. If I set myself up with these healthy habits and I learn how to adjust and adapt them as I adapt and adjust to life, to a different phase of life, to different challenges that I'm going to face in life, it is going to serve you so well going forward. And to those of us who are maybe closer to our age, it's never too late to start. And it really breaks my heart when I do talk to people who are younger than me, maybe in their early 40s, and they're like, oh, what's the point now? I'm so far gone. I've gotten myself in such a hole. I can't even get out of it. And so, why bother trying? No, please don't give up, because the human body is incredibly resilient. It's going to be a lot of hard work. And I mean, Mandy, it's hard work every day, right?
Oh, and some days I'm better at it than others. I mean, to be perfectly, I some days I am really great about making sure I'm getting enough veggies on my plate. I'm getting enough like lean protein. Some days I crush it all day long. I don't have any snacking. I'm drinking plenty of water. And then the next day there's a crumble cookie at work calling my name. And so that's not the best. But previously, part of my mindset shift that was really significant was previously, if I had some of that crumble cookie at work, well, the whole day was lost. And then I should just start over again tomorrow and I'll just unhinge my jaw and tip back the refrigerator until then. And that is literally the most damaging mindset for two reasons. Number one, you end up eating 4,000 calories you don't need to eat, you didn't want to eat, and you wouldn't have thought about had you not already had that one little stumble. But secondarily, you're punishing yourself for making a bad choice. That's what that is. It feels like comfort if you're a person who uses comfort for food. And that was a big part of my issues, is that we used comfort, we used food for comfort in my family. Every celebration, everything revolved around that big meal. I mean, that's just how we were. And I think a lot of people have that. But when you use food for comfort, you're also setting yourself back in such a way that then you wake up in the morning, you've now kicked this cycle of self-loathing in. Well, God, I really screwed up yesterday. You know what? I'm just going to get back on the horse on Monday. Now, it's only Tuesday, mind you, but you're going to get back on the horse next Monday. It's all these little mental games that you play with yourself, when in reality, if you just said to yourself after eating that cookie, well, that wasn't a good choice, but I'll do better at lunch, but I'll do better at dinner, but I'll go for an extra long walk today to just balance it out. And don't get me wrong, I don't think you can eat a whole crumble cookie, which has 1,100 calories, just an FYI, and walk it off, because that's like a 3-hour hike. But the notion that somehow you can say, I did something I'm not super proud of, but I'm going to do something that makes me feel really good, as to even it out a little bit, maybe not even it out calorically, but even it out mentally. And it's a much easier way to be kind and gentle to yourself. And the harder you are on yourself, the more you beat yourself up, the more you're going to want to comfort yourself with food if that's your issue. So then you've created this big circular spiral that feels impossible to get out of. But, for me, I had to learn other ways to comfort myself. I had to learn other ways to manage my emotions and deal with my feelings. And once I kind of got that, then the rest of it started to fall into place. But again, not perfect every day. It's just trying to make the best choice possible as often as possible. And if I get too far off the beaten path. And I realize that more bad choices are being made than more good choices. Then I yank it back into line with a very rigid kind of mindset for about 4 or 5 days where I'm like, okay, I'm going to think about what I'm eating tomorrow today. I'm going to plan ahead. I'm going to make sure, and just getting back on track. That process builds a lot of confidence and makes you feel really good about yourself when you're like, you know what? I didn't derail myself for a week over that bite of crumble cookie. We should get Crumble to like host the podcast or sponsor the podcast after this one. They are deliciously good, but there's ways to sort of like flex your fitness muscles. And I don't mean fitness muscles. I mean your entire mental like outlook on your own physical fitness and what you're capable of. And that's been very empowering for me. I think that's the word I'm looking for. You were talking about young women who are, thinking they can keep doing everything. I had a conversation with a young woman who is part of the fat positivity movement, even though she herself is very fit. She just wants to make sure that heavy people do not feel shamed or feel, embarrassed. And I understand that. It's a very compassionate position when you just look at feelings. But I said something to her, and I think I may have taken her out of the fat positivity movement. I said, where are the over 50 fat positivity models? And she goes, what? I go, they're all young. Where are the women who are over 50 who have been fat their entire lives, who now need double knee replacements, double hip replacements, who can't walk up the stairs because they're out of breath, they have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and they're probably going to have some kind of massive medical event by the time they're 60. Where are the ones over 50? And she was like, oh, I'll find some. I never heard from her again. So the fat positivity movement, though well-intentioned, is going to get people killed. That's how I feel about it. We don't have a smoking positivity movement. Obesity is now killing way more people than smoking is. And yet we're telling people, hey, it's okay that you're 100 pounds overweight. You're not a bad person, but you're not healthy. And if you are healthy now, you're not going to be healthy in 10 years at that weight. It's your body's not made for that. Your joints can't handle it. And it's very upsetting to me that we're selling a bill of goods to young people who are at a point in their life when it is the easiest to take control of their health and their weight and their fitness. And we're going to blow through it until they end up with high blood pressure, high cholesterol. Then they're going to end up doing all the drastic measures. And it's a horrible cycle to be in, especially when it's easier to change your habits when you're young than when you're older. It's not impossible when you're older because I've changed a lot of habits in the last 10 years, a lot, significant number. So that's just the one last thing I'll say about the young women. Have you seen the meme that says, to all of the young women out there who think they're fat, I have news for you. You're going to be so, so much fatter. Okay. So really, you're the skinniest you're going to be. And it's true because as you get older, you're going to gain weight. It's just the way it is. It's just what kind of weight and where's it going to go? That's the thing that you can control.
Yeah. And I think that is something that everybody struggles with, right? Whether you're on one end of the spectrum or another, because I have a lot of very, very, very thin people,
right.
People who are very, very thin growing up. And then, there are those of us who are just kind of in the middle, but then because of, like you were talking about, understanding your emotions and why I turn to food or my attitude about exercise, how all of those things and over the course of time, things have changed. And then for me, it was in my mid-20s when I had my come to Jesus conversation with myself that I realized if I didn't start to figure some things out, oh boy, my future self was not going to be pleased. It was not going to have a very, lovely, joyful experience. And that happened for me in my mid-20s because after gymnastics, I went and did whatever I wanted for a few years. And that led to, a 55-pound weight gain in about a year and a half. So I had a very different journey than you did. And everybody has a different journey. But I think the mindset and the attitude is always where it comes down to. And choosing to be honest with yourself and choosing to do the hard work because we sometimes don't want to do that. Was it fun to explore your emotions and your triggers and your challenges to figure out why you turned your food? I mean, was that fun to have to deal with?
I'm still, that's an ongoing process. I mean, that I don't think will ever stop because there are times when I am reflexively going to get a snack when I'm not hungry. And then I have to sit and go, wait a minute, what am I doing right now? And then I have to ask those questions like, am I just thirsty? Am I stressed? Am I am I secretly mad? I don't really, the last few years, I've spent a lot of mental energy, working on my stress management skills because I eventually ended up with a stress related illness. And oh my gosh, Michelle Zellner, if you have not interviewed that doctor, you must. He's
He's my
amazing.
neighbor, Mandy. I
He'll
know. I
probably
get to
be
talk
on
to him
this
all the time.
podcast.
He
I'm telling
will.
you. So her doctor neighbor has written a book about stress related illnesses. Fibromyalgia is a stress related illness. If you have fibro, if you start looking at as a stress related illness, you can live pain free. I was suffering mightily for a couple of years, but in managing my stress, now I've realized that my stress management as it was before, which it wasn't very good, was directly connected to my cravings for salty foods.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not like a sweets craver. You put a bag of chips in this house and they call to me from the pantry, right? Like I can hear them. But I now have realized that when I am stressed, and biologically, I think, and this could be a complete fabrication, but this is what I tell myself. I think it's because, when you have cortisol, when you have stress hormones, like it affects your electrolytes, right? It puts all that out of whack. So maybe my body's going, I need salt. So just, it's an ongoing process and I'm not sure it will ever be done. And sometimes, y'all, I have the chips. Sometimes I'm like, you know what? I need the chips. I'm having the chips, but I don't eat a whole bag. Now my habit is I get the chips out. I get a little bowl. I put some chips in the little bowl. I put the chips away, completely away. They're gone. And then I eat the chips. So it's like little mindset changes like that have been really instrumental in helping me forgive myself for my mistakes and also stay on track as much as I can. I mean, that's the hardest part is when you are doing really, really well for a long time and you're feeling great and you're looking great. Maybe your weight's getting close to where you want to do it. And then something completely derails you. And getting back on the horse, getting back up to where you were before sometimes feels far more insurmountable than starting in the first place, which is so ridiculous because you've already proven how quickly your body can respond. It's just your brain telling you, well, you screwed it up. You don't deserve good things. So you don't, this is your back at square one. You're not back at square one. You may be at square five, but you're not back at square one. Right. And so all of these little things, all of these little realizations, and I'm telling you, if you haven't read The You Revolution, a lot of this stuff you will find in there. I mean, and you will start thinking about stuff differently. You really will. And looking at your behavior differently and looking at the things you do differently when you become mindful about it. And that's part of what Michelle's book does so well.
Well, thank you, Mandy. I think so much of everything we talk about, it is about embracing a different type of approach. Mm-hmm. And getting out of this idea that there's got to be some magic diet, some miracle workout, some amazing meditation that if I just do it, my life will be fantastic. It almost is never going to work that way. If you find it, please tell us, tell everybody, yes. Share it, because we would all like to sign up for that. But thank you so much for coming on and just sharing your experience, because I know that you are not alone in this in any way. And you are living proof that you can grow up one way and then realize that, hey, what I was doing along the way isn't serving me well. And then choosing to make the hard choices, choosing to go through the work, adjusting the mindset, eating the chips, and A, doing it intentionally, and B, not feeling bad about it because you did it intentionally. And that is a big mindset shift for so many people when it comes to food choices, or, oh, I was going to work out this week and I didn't, so I'm a failure. Maybe it's too busy. I'll think about it in January again. And getting out of the all or nothing mindset. And that's something I work hard. I had to work hard on it myself. I know you've worked on it. This is something that everybody needs to work on if you really do want to see long-lasting change. And then the benefits of those changes that you're making will be there. You just have to keep on doing those things. So before we officially wrap up, any last closing thoughts, anything you want to share that we haven't touched on?
The one big thing about exercise, because when I say I used to hate to exercise, I did an entire show one time about how I hated to exercise, like literally 3 hours of why and how I hated to exercise. And all these people called in and they were like, oh, I hate to exercise too. It's terrible. It's horrible. The trainer that I was mentioning before that I had in Louisville, she said something to me that was, it kind of bounced off at the time, but it's something that since has come back around. And she just said, and stop saying I have to go work out and say, oh my gosh, I get to work out. I have a body that's strong enough. I have a body that's healthy enough that I get to go into a gym and lift heavy things and make my body stronger and fitter and happier and healthier. And just start telling yourself, you don't have to work out. You get to work out, because there are people out there that can't. There are people out there physically unable to do those things. And your body is strong enough and healthy enough that you get to go and exercise. And I think about that now when I don't want to work out, when I don't want to do the things that I need to do. I'm like, there are people that would kill to be able to have the ability to do these things I get to do. And that was a big one for me, because the older I get, especially in terms of stress management, exercise is a key component of my stress management. And for me, I had to realize, and this was a realization maybe 3 years ago, I have to exercise outside. I have to do my cardio outside. I cannot get on a treadmill. I cannot get on a Stairmaster. I can't do that. I hate it. I hate every second of it. But I can go outside and I can walk for 3 miles in an hour and be so happy. And it is such a huge part of how I manage my stress and how I manage my mental health. But I had to find what works for me. I have a friend who cannot live without her Peloton bike. That's her stress management, So find what you like and do it. Like, just find the thing and do it. And if you like what you're doing, it's so much easier to make yourself get up and say, I get to do this thing today. So it's all about just thinking about it differently and not feeling put upon, but feeling lucky to be able to have the opportunity to make yourself better, stronger, and healthier.
I love that. I want to meet that trainer someday, because that's the exact message that I echo.
I had her phone number for forever. And the last time I called her to just say thank you, literally called to say thank you, someone else has the number now. And I'm like, dang it. So I'm going to track her down. So,
okay. Well, that sounds good. Excellent. Well, as I knew it would be, this has been a delightful conversation. I always enjoy talking with you, and I get to do it on your show. And thank you so much for coming and sharing with my listeners the journey of Mandy Connell, because it's been a great one. And I'm going to say I'm really proud to be a little part of it, and that I continue to get to be part of it.
Yeah, you've been a big part of it. And now if anybody sees me out and you're like, well, dang, she's not super skinny. No, I'm not. But my blood pressure is super low and my pulse is like 55. So I'm pretty happy about that.
Well, and I hope that during our conversation, people have gotten the message. It isn't about being super skinny. That's not what this is about, right? It's about being healthy, fit, strong, living your life, being a contributing member of society, modeling good things for your children, being an advocate to help other people be healthier, happier humans so that we can all be better. That's the thing. When we are not healthy, we are not serving anyone at all. And, that, again, is just a big part of the mindset shift. But I know that we will continue to have these conversations. I look forward to continuing to get to come onto your show and share with your listeners. And I'm super grateful for this connection that we have. I'm going to give myself a good pat on the back for going out of my comfort zone and reaching out to you, because that's also part of this, right? Is that was kind of scary for me to do. And I want to make sure people get that part of the message, that when you do things that are scary, sometimes really amazing things happen because of that. Yeah. Never in a million years would I have imagined that me just sending you that message on Facebook Messenger would have resulted in all of this. And so, not only that I get to come on your show, but that I have a really cool friend, and that means a lot to me too. So Mandy, thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you everybody for joining in. Hopefully you got some really good nuggets out of today that you will run with to help yourself go and be a better being.
Thank you for listening to the Be a Better Being podcast. Michelle and Sasha hope that what you heard today inspires you to embrace this journey of life with an open mind, a kind heart, and a willingness to learn and evolve. If you enjoyed the content, please help spread their message by subscribing, sharing, and leaving a 5-star review. If you have a show topic idea or would like to be a guest, please visit betterbeings.net and fill out a contact form. Until next time, go and be a better being.